All righty, everyone. As it goes in these virtual events, those sort of hiccups happen. So thank you for bearing through that. So once again, I'm Michael Nixon, VP of Product Marketing for SnapLogic. And let me tell you, it is just a complete joy to be here. And just a little personal note, I've been with SnapLogic now for over 7 months, a little over 7 months. And I can just tell you that this is really an exciting area. And I feel that as we go through our materials here, we have wonderful things to share with you in terms of how we see enterprise automation. So let me just begin by starting at the top, right? Regardless of how we all approach our day-to-day jobs, there's just something that all of us have in common, or a few things I should say that we all have in common, and what every organization wants. And so I would summarize it as this. First, certainly we want transformation that helps us to deliver products and services to market faster. We all want to certainly provide better customer experiences. I mean, that's why we're all committed to this event today, to be here to talk with you. And then we all want to achieve amazing business results. I mean, that's just a common thread through all of that we do, and we believe that you share that too. Now, in today's days, obviously with the health crisis and the pandemic, there's also other areas that are motivating a lot of our activities, particularly in integration. And Gaurav alluded to this somewhat at his discussion, and certainly that would be self-service, but self-service in the context of remote workforces or remote workers is critically important for many of you today as you embark on your digital transformation. In fact, based on studies that I've seen, I like to quote, in fact, a study from Twilio. The pandemic itself has prompted many of you, as many as 95% or more, to accelerate your digital transformation efforts. And that acceleration is in the neighborhood of 4, 5 to 6 years. Now, to achieve that digital transformation, to achieve that better agility, many of you are relying on the cloud for transformation. You know, that's great. That boosts agility. We know that pattern has been in place for a number of years. Nothing particularly new there. However, as you adopt the cloud, one of the reasons why you go to the cloud is so that you can embrace best-in-class applications or best-in-breed applications. And so let's just say a typical environment for payroll, you're using ADP, and this ADP, you have IT administration through ServiceNow. Maybe you have some performance management or employee management type of software like Kudos or 7Geese to manage employee objectives and then manage their performance over time. Maybe you push it to a data warehouse and then maybe do some analytics on that. I mean, all in ideal, that's the way you would want the data to flow. However, as Gaurav alluded to, there are issues when this happens, when you move application to the cloud. The ideal doesn't actually materialize. What actually happens is that many of these SaaS applications and many of the environments that we engage with will have well over 100 applications. Some of you are as many as 2, 3, or maybe even 400 applications. The reality is many of these best-in-class SaaS solutions have various states of integration, right? They may have high level of connectivity, they may not have high level connectivity. They may have, or they may be easy to ingest data from, or they may not be easy to ingest data from. I frequently like to quote one of our customers, Travis at SailPoint. He'll say there are varying degrees of documentation and integration across all of these applications. And that leads you to the issue of data silos, because when applications don't talk and the data, when I say applications don't talk, I'm saying application and data don't talk, it creates the silos. I mean, we all are aware of silos. We've done our own study about this. Gaurav alluded to advanced and board study. So let me speak to that just a little more deeply. This advanced and board survey was a survey that we conducted throughout Europe and the US. And we asked roughly 500 IT decision makers, or I should say we surveyed roughly 500 IT decision makers. And among these 500 IT decision makers, 83% of them indicated that they were not completely satisfied with the performance and output of their data warehousing initiatives, for example. And of those 83%, 89% indicated that they were worried that data silos was the primary reason for holding them back. So we're quite sure many of you are experiencing very similar struggles. And so this is where SnapLogic comes into play. And so to better articulate that, for those of you who may not be as familiar with SnapLogic, let's just take an ideal sort of situation. And what we have here represented in this illustration would be multiple functions like marketing, sales, HR, analytics, as you see there. And the idea would be you want to have various business processes flowing from one function to another. Those business processes can be an employee journey, it can be a customer 360 journey or a customer experience, that sort of thing, a spend, procure to pay, quote to cash journey, you name it. But because of those brick walls, or because of those silos, you actually have brick walls in between these applications, and they disrupt the data flow between various applications within these business functions. And so the current state is, as a result of that, you have the stalled integrations, which lead to poor business process flows. So this is the reality of what many of you are dealing with. And so as a result of these silos, naturally that leads to poor response time, that leads to perhaps missed opportunities, and also slow business results. So not just silos, because certainly many of us are well familiar with the silo issue, but there's also the fact that just pulling applications together, getting them to talk, as I said before, app and data don't talk, you end up embarking on one-off integrations. These one-off integrations start to add up in terms of volume. It puts a strain on your IT teams. And then not only that, if a SaaS application or a SaaS solution has an integration capability or an API strategy, sometimes, or I would say majority of the time, that strategy leads to lock-in, because clearly the SaaS solution is allowing the API from a perspective of funneling data into that solution, but maybe coming out of that solution isn't what it's really designed to do, or is not optimal. So lock-ins tend to be a problem. So in addition to that, many of these solutions tend to be a little too techy. And so because they're too techy, what happens is your business group or your LOB user backs out because it's difficult to engage with that particular integration solution. And then as a result of trying to cover all of the additional integration requests, as I mentioned earlier, your IT teams are overwhelmed. And so that is really the problem with solutions that are too techy. So we believe the answer is you bring in SnapLogic, right? You have our intelligent iPaaS solution, integration platform as a service, right? You're able to move data between various applications. And basically with SnapLogic, you remove those brick walls. And so by removing those brick walls, we're able to facilitate better data flow between applications. And as a result, you're now able to construct these various journeys more effectively. So when we talk about enterprise automation, this in effect is at a high level, certainly from a visual point of view, what we mean. So the automation is by way of things like certainly time-based triggers, or maybe a event trigger of some sort. And based on those triggers, we will be able to detect a particular movement of data from one to the another, or I should say we initiate movement of data from one area to another, and on down the line it goes. And so that cycle can be conducted by any person that obviously has been brought up to speed to use SnapLogic. And SnapLogic, we find, based on all of the data and inputs that we receive from many of you, is actually quite easy to use. And so once you have those events in place and those triggers established, then you can basically design your own business process. You're not locked into any one particular application. You can design the business flow for what is necessary for your particular operation. So in the end, you remove those barriers, you integrate app and data, you empower those LOB users, and you automate the business. And so in the end, that gives you an IT organization that is certainly happy, because from a perspective of their productivity, they're more productive, they get more things done, and they're happy. From a business perspective, the LOB user is able to orchestrate their own integrations, or if they require some level of assistance from an IT person, then that level of assistance isn't as high as perhaps a more complex platform or more complex type of solution. And then lastly, it all adds up to deliver those faster business results. So again, at a high level, this is what we think of when we think of enterprise automation. It's about integrating and flowing data between applications to automate business processes, and is targeted for IT and for LOB users. So let me just give you a little bit a deeper or a more specific example. In this case, we have a hire to retire employee journey. And let's just say your particular applications in your environment would include an applicant tracking solution like Talio, or it could be JobVite, and then perhaps your HCM solution is Workday, your IT service administration or management solution is ServiceNow. As mentioned before, you have employee management solution like Kudos, and then ADP and Workday down the line for what will be, as I will explain in this animation, the deprovisioning of a particular employee. So the ideal is you begin with an applicant who would apply. Obviously, they would apply through a talent solution like, or a recruiting solution, I should say, like Talio. And once that data is in place, that creates that event trigger that engages with Workday. Workday is where the requisition resides. And so the data between Talio and Workday is integrated. And then let's just say in a scenario where hypothetically the person is hired, that person comes on board, data is moved down the line to ServiceNow, where the IT administration or provisioning of equipment for that new hire employee is engaged. And then the process will continue as you move into other I would say other applications within the employee journey. So as I mentioned before, the employee experience could be Kudos, it could be 7Gs, but you're sharing data between those applications. And so that's a very operational approach to integration. And so I don't need to dwell on this, but you can also, for example, use, I would say, automation to, for example, if someone were to leave the company and you were going to deprovision that person, that data would move from the Workday environment to maybe your archive solution. And then let's say that person was rehired, it'd be easy to reinitiate that data and bring that person back on board. So the whole point of it is you're able to have data flow based on these event triggers, and then you're able to engage different parts of your organization to basically sign off on, let's say, an approval of a rec or approval of the equipment, and everyone is participating in that process that you built through essentially the integration platform. So that is, at a high level, a journey, and this is a fairly common one, the employee journey, hire to retire. You can engage a customer experience journey, a customer 360. I don't need to go through the specifics again, but a very similar sort of arrangement where you're flowing data from one particular application to another, Marketo to Salesforce to maybe an Adobe customer experience cloud, the Gainsight. Well, I think you get the idea by now. So this is what we mean by when we're constructing an automated solution that is meant to drive business process. So how is all of this enabled? It's enabled by our platform, our intelligent iPaaS solution, where you can build your integrations, you can automate those integrations, and then from a single point of management, you can orchestrate all your pipelines. And so built within our platform, you then have multiple capabilities. Gaurav alluded to, for example, ELT, which would be fairly commonplace for moving data from a particular system of record into your data warehouse. But in addition to ELT or traditional ETL, you can also manage and produce APIs. And in our case, when we say APIs, what we mean is when you build your pipeline through SnapLogic using our GUI interface, you can expose that pipeline's API, and therefore you can build multiple APIs to engage maybe your custom applications or do something specific with a particular business flow. In addition to API management, there were a number of data engineering types of snaps being our pre-built connectors, and here where you can have, for example, masking or apply some level of transformation. You can do data cleansing and a number of things through these data engineering snaps. And then from an ML AI ops perspective, this is where we just take it to the next level of preparation for, let's say, for example, you wanted to build models and you were using something outside of SnapLogic like TensorFlow, and you needed to prepare that data into TensorFlow by way of applying maybe some sophisticated analysis. Maybe there's some regression analysis you need to apply to that data to build and prepare that data for your models. Then we have those capabilities through our ML AI ops snaps. So in total, over 500 snaps, all working together in a cloud. So in effect, we have our integration cloud here that enables you to build your specific enterprise solution. So don't take our word for it. We've had a study performed by Forrester. They independently looked at many of the things that I've spoken about over the last 15 minutes or so, and they did their own assessment as to the value that can be received from SnapLogic. So they were able to determine that in a typical 3-year type of implementation, the benefit is in the neighborhood of a $3.9 million with an ROI of 498%. And this is based on a fully loaded cost of about $652K. And then there are some other benefits as well. So over $1 million in new business revenue can be achieved from perhaps initiatives that previously failed. When we say initiatives that previously failed, we mean things along the lines of more difficult integrations that just weren't able to come to fruition. And then also you can experience a reduction in cost, like 70% reduction in integration, build times leading to roughly $770K in value. And then lastly, you can largely attribute cost savings directly to SnapLogic in place. And again, based on Forrester's own assessment and modeling, they saw that it was typical to save somewhere in the neighborhood of $640K. And this is over that period of 3 years. So again, don't take our word for it. Consider what Forrester has to say in terms of business that benefits that you might be able to realize. So that is what I really had to say to really bring together the story of what we mean by enterprise automation. We think that is where many of you are going. This is why we see a number of you signing up for the events. And so we really believe that is the future, but it's here today and delivered through SnapLogic. So at this time, I'd like to queue up and introduce my colleague, Craig Stewart. So I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. And from here, I am going to allow Craig to take it and run his set of slides. So Craig, over to you.
Thank you very much, Michael. I think that's a great introduction there. Let me just get my screen shared. And hopefully you'll come up here. Great. Okay. Well, thanks very much, Michael. I think this is that was a great tee up. And so what I'd like to do is take you through a little bit of the things that are actually influencing us as the pedal hits the metal, as it were. You know, what are the things that are really influencing the things that are going on, and how is SnapLogic actually doing, and what are we doing about delivering on this enterprise automation vision? So I'm going to take you through a couple of the things that are influencing us, and also give you a view of what that looks like in actually delivering in a modern enterprise, and then look at some of the things that we're looking at delivering over and above that in the coming releases. That's going to give you a feel for what's actually going to be possible in the coming months. So, I think the benefit that enterprise automation can bring organizations is very clearly articulated there by Michael, and trying to realize that is so important for us all, and how we actually achieve that. So what I'd like to do is move to the next slide and give you just, there's all sorts of things that are impacting us as we are building automations across our enterprises. And I know many of the customers that I'm dealing with are seeing in their environments, it's not all nice and clean environment where they're just dealing with one set of technology. There is a whole host of different things going on. There's the legacy data source. Many of you are still dealing with the mainframe data, and going back to when I started in the industry, one of the companies I was working for then, we had an ad which was the tombstone, the RIP of the mainframe. Well, here we are 30 years later, and we're still dealing with that. Many of our customers actually pulling data out of mainframe sources and needing to integrate that across the applications and databases that we've been using, and the contemporary applications, the likes of Salesforce, and they were the groundbreakers really in the cloud applications, but they've been followed by so many others. And as Michael was saying, many of your organizations are using hundreds of applications, and the flow of data coming from those is quite overwhelming. And as Gaurav said, we've got the challenge of the amount of data that is being generated. We need to actually make some sense of that. We need to be able to gain the benefits of analytics and predictive modeling, those kind of things, moving that data into cloud data warehouses, getting the benefit of those things. And we're dealing with a very complex environment. I think all of you are very aware of this, probably feeling this pain every day. You don't need me to tell you about it, but I will anyway. But let's look at some of the things that are actually going on and influencing that. And the first of those that I want to touch on is, in most enterprises, there is very little consistency across who owns the data. The CEO comes into the virtual office on a Monday morning and wants to know where are my sales numbers, and somewhere along the line some part of the process has broken, and who's responsible for that? And in most organizations, it's a very messy environment. The source applications are owned by one group. The people that are doing the transformations are another group. They don't have any connection with the producers or the consumers of that information. And it's very disjointed. It's very higgledy-piggledy, as we say. And that is a real challenge for most organizations, because when you want to put your finger on it and say, okay, I want to be able to rely on the data that I'm working with. I want to be able to ensure that the data that I'm going to have is going to be meaningful. And when one of those source applications has changed, the sales team decided to move from Salesforce to Dynamics. What happened? Where's my data that's actually feeding those dashboards? why is there a glitch in this process? That's something that we really need to take control of. And one of the solutions that's out there that's being talked about is this concept of domain responsibility, and having a single domain in the data fabric where the owners of the data are responsible for the end-to-end processing of the data, understanding where it's coming from, understanding what it means, and what the consumption of that data is going to look like, and where the essentially the product of those data flows, turning those into products that can be relied on within the organization, so that when that CEO comes into the virtual office to see what the numbers are, he can see it. When the product management team want to know what's happened, who's using which features, what's actually the numbers of the consumption of the platform overnight, all of those things, by making that, making the teams that understand the data also responsible for the data and delivering the products of that data. This approach is not new, but it is a very sensible approach to actually delivering, where you take for instance, the employee domain or the customer domain, and you make the team responsible for that own the source applications, right the way through to delivering the data products of, in the employee context, one of those simple things, the employee directory. There'll be a number of these things, but they'll be consumable in various different ways. Some of the customers, just talking this week with one customer who's part of their employee environment, their employee domain is a directory service with the keys, the key pairs and the public key, so that you can send them encrypted emails. Having the same team responsible for that means that as things are iterating, the people that are responsible for that, if there is a change necessary, they are aware of the product that they're delivering and where that data is going to come from and how it's going to get to where it is, and to ensure that the company can rely on these products as if they were products of the company itself. And that's one of the real key things, that this domain approach resolves that ownership issue and ensures that the quality of the product that's actually delivered in terms of the data and the formats that it's made available, etc., is then available. So this is the first of those concepts I just wanted to touch on. Now, the second concept is that in today's world, everything is an event. Gaurav referred to this volume of data, this volume of unstructured data. Well, many of those things are coming as a result of events that are happening in the business, whether that's people placing orders on the website, browsing pages, products actually coming off the production line, customers placing orders. All of those things are business events. Historically, we viewed those as kind of static data. Well, the organization is dynamic, and these things are happening, and they're happening at different speeds and different velocities, and like the hands of an analog watch, where you have the second hand moving every second. You have the minute hand moving much more slowly. You've got the hour hand moving even more slowly. Data has that same attribute. Some things need to be dealt with immediately. These events that are happening need to be dealt with immediately. Some of them need to be dealt with in perhaps micro batches. Some of them need to be dealt with in batches. You're not going to get those real-time feeds of data off your mainframe well, not without a lot of development effort, and many of us don't want to do that today, but being able to deal with those batch data and to be able to match these things together. In fact, over the Thanksgiving break, I actually put in place a home automation server in my house. Those of you that can see me, there's the Raspberry Pi that I'm actually running it on. And I put in this home automation server so that I can automate the lights and the garage door and the sockets. And most important for me, in the morning, I want to be able to wake up and get my tea really quickly. So I've got the kettle now on a socket that's able to be automated. But the most amazing thing was just looking at putting that home automation server, and I used Home Assistant for those of you that were interested, that actually the number of event feeds that I've got coming in my house, and I'm not particularly exceptional. I've got blink cameras, I've got the garage door. At any point, there is a huge number. There is more than 50 different event streams being generated within the house, and that's my house. And that's a microcosm of what's happening in businesses across the world. Everything that's happening in your business is generating events, and making those things happen and actually taking advantage of them is a really important thing that we need to do. So if we then look at, okay, well, how do we take advantage of this and bring these things together? And so what I've just drawn up here is kind of the typical flow that you get in a modern business, in the modern data architecture, where there on the left-hand side you can see the events being generated, orders being placed, and much like the orders, as in this COVID time, we've all been, many of us have used services like Amazon, getting stuff delivered. Not the least of which is just the weekly shopping. But as soon as you place an order, you have now an expectation that you're going to get an acknowledgement. But equally, that event that's been generated is going to go into some form of an event stream store. So whether that's something like Kafka or Amazon SQS or the Azure Service Bus, which enables that to be consumed both immediately and streamed to the application, which is going to send out the acknowledgement, schedule the necessary things in the warehouse, the people to pick, the drivers to be scheduled, and all of those things, as well as then taking that data in slightly slower time stream and dropping it into some cloud file system, whether that's S3 or ADLS in Azure, and then ELTing that in a cloud data warehouse. The common ones there that we're dealing with many customers, Snowflake and Azure Synapse and Redshift, all of these things are participating in this. With something like an analytical database, the velocity of the data is different to that which is required for the order processing application. And getting that data in there, having the ability to be able to process that with a single consistent platform, automate these processes, that's what SnapLogic is delivering, then making that available out to the analytics and the whole API economy, making that data, more and more of the results of the transformation processes going into a cloud data warehouse, now being made available as services that are then consumable via APIs. So that gives you an idea of the complexity and what SnapLogic is often doing with our customers to deliver that. And that's based on this platform, this unique combination of that broad set of application integration capabilities, the API management, the data automation capabilities, as well as the machine learning, all of that powered with the Iris AI functionality, making our users, the consumers of the platform, and ultimately the people that are actually delivering those data products, making them much more productive, making them able to deliver these automated business processes. And looking at some of those, we have over the past months been doing a lot of work around making those more and more available to our customers. And you may have seen on our website, we've started actually articulating those solutions and making them available to our customers. So pre-built business automation flows across those different processes. Michael outlined some of those with the employee journey and the customer 360. We have those available today for you to actually be able to interact with, to download and use yourselves, so that out of the box, you can get those automations with the HR environments. So you're dealing with the set of applications and technologies across that employee journey. And you can browse these within our website today and actually take advantage of those. We started focusing on the employee, customer, and partner, and those we're adding to, and based on the experience that we have and our partners have in helping our customers to do these things and achieve them in the most rapid way and the most effective way. So the next thing we've actually delivered in the past couple of months is providing what we call our fast data loader. So our fast data loader is automating the replication of source data into cloud data warehouses, the likes of Redshift and Snowflake. One of the really interesting things, one of the things that I'm really excited about in this context is this is an application entirely built on SnapLogic. So it's SnapLogic that is serving up the pages. It's SnapLogic that's actually doing the transformation. It's SnapLogic that's doing the movement of the data. All of this is done in SnapLogic itself, basically making up the services that deliver the pages, that deliver the functionality behind it. And this has been, again, made available. Our customers are able to use this, taking data from various cloud accessible endpoints like ServiceNow and Coupa and Salesforce, replicating those into cloud data warehouse immediately queryable schemas. And that's available actually for customers and prospects up to 1 million records, documents a month for free. So, but as I say, the thing that really excites me about this is this application entirely built on SnapLogic itself. And kudos to the team that built this. Yeah, but this pattern is something that our customers can actually look to use themselves. Okay, the next thing that I'll touch on is we are trying, as Gaurav said, to provide the most intuitive, the most productive environment, taking the knowledge that we have built up in that 15 terabytes of data about how integrations are built, what they're actually doing, and providing to a wide range of users within organizations and extending these automations right the way to the business people. And you'll see this is in our labs at the moment, that we are building out this technology to deliver a user interface for business people So people that don't understand the complexities, not only of the APIs, but even of the complexities of how those might be used in a pipeline, and making a guided user interface, all built on our Iris technology, delivering on the value that that's giving us to deliver a capability for building automations within an enterprise for even the business user that doesn't have that IT knowledge. And this is some other very exciting stuff that's going on. And Greg will talk, I think, later. He will touch on some of the technologies that's gone into actually getting this underway. So those are some really interesting things that we've already delivered and are working on. But the platform itself is day by day getting enhanced. And over the coming months, some of the things that we're committing to actually delivering to our customers for inside the platform. Zero downtime. When we started the platform and brought it to market back in 2013, 14, we took 4 hours for each release. And in fact, way back then, we were actually doing a release a month. But now we have this quarterly release. We've taken that 4 hours down to 2 hours, down to 1 hour. And in the coming months, you'll actually see us take that down to zero downtime, so that there is no interruption to our customers while those updates are taking place. And this is something that we've committed to, and our development team have been working our way towards. The really critical thing is that slide of customers that you saw Gaurav talk about earlier. Our customers, and very much recognize that our customers rely on us to run your businesses. And doing that reliably is not a choice. And so that's being able to do that properly is one of the really important things we've got coming. Hyperscaling, so allowing our customers to find ways to burst, because many of your businesses are spiky workloads, and being able to do that, the hyperscale feature coming along. And in order to give the intelligence about what's going on in the platform, the anomaly detection. So, when a pipeline's running for a long time, is there something going wrong? When a pipeline is moving more data than it normally does, is there something going wrong? There's all sorts of different anomalies that can take place in that data, and actually taking that AI capability and applying it to the runtime is something that we've got some really interesting work underway. A couple of the other things there, API management, design first capability, really important for those customers that want to start with the definition of the API and have that automatically generate for them the framework of the pipelines, the tasks, etc., so they can then just use those. And as always, with the applications and technologies, the snaps, we've got over 500 in place already. Coming soon, we've got Marketo, OpenAPI, Microsoft Teams, Pulsar, SAP Ariba. There's a whole host of those that are coming along, and those are coming at us. The number of applications is increasing all the time. Those that we need to support effectively is also coming along. We're doing that both ourselves internally and working with partners who have those domain knowledge in those different areas that are working there. That last line item there, the metadata and governance, is a really critical one for us. And for our customers, looking at what is actually going on in the environment, what are the interactions of the data, who's using it, why are they using it, where's it come from, all of those things. And over the coming months, we will start introducing capabilities both inside the product with APIs and interactions with third-party tools. So we've got those things coming along as we go. So, and just bringing this to a close, the nature of work has changed over this past year or so. It's accelerated in its change. We've seen Salesforce acquiring Slack, and that is just indicative of what has changed within the organization. That collaboration is so important within organizations that we need to be able to deliver on the capabilities that is going to require of us. This is actually from my home automation. It's just a screenshot of some of the things that we've got going on. Each of these different things that we've got in the environment, events are happened. It's not something that is a future for us. The events are here today, and they are the future of how we're going to be dealing with data. And we need to have the fabric in place to be able to effectively work with that. And this article I found really interesting. This I don't know if any of you saw this article about DeepMind, the company that was invested in by Google a few years ago, solving one of the biggest problems in the folding of proteins. My wife is in the pharma and biotech business, and this is something that she fights with every day. I keep my head down myself, but actually, one of the people we know works for this company. They have solved critical problems by applying AI. AI is not something which is a future. AI is something which is reality and impacting your business today. And what I'd like to do, just to close, it's really critical for our customers. It's only with the unique combination of the broad capabilities that we have within the SnapLogic platform, the unique combination not only of the iPaaS functionality, and that's a great set of things, but applying the AI with that we can deliver true enterprise automation. We can do that now. Thank you.